Robin. That that Alfred was really good, and it's the thing is though about the actors who play Alfred are often the best,
Yeah,
and because I mean considering the amount of time they're on there and the material, these guys seem to eat up the scenery.
and see, Batman, and Alfred are pretty much what they feed off each other. So if you have a really bad Batman and a really good Alfred, they kind of balance themselves over. But if you have a really bad Alfred, it's what people look for.
But I don't know concerning the actors that they picked for Alfred. And I know, guys, we're going down the rabbit hole here. And,
I wouldn't classify us as going down the rabbit hole because this is basically what makes geeks. And there's actually a quote, a comment here I really want to read. I think it's pretty much speaks wonders to pretty much why we all become geeks, and also more a little bit why we stay as geeks.
Yeah.
So this is actually Lazy Nerd. To him, he says, really being a geek to me is not just being enthusiastic or an expert on something, although it used to be. We were definitely the same way on that one. We always wanted to be experts on it. And it's about the passion for the hobby, the show, movie, comic, and basking in the building blocks that come with it. For example, I would never have gotten in creating chiptune music if it wasn't for owning original 8-bit Nintendo with Super Mario Bros. And a Game Boy with Tetris.
And I actually wish he had been there because Lazy Nerd actually went off and actually entertained us a little bit with some of his music that he creates using his Game Boy, and on New Year's Eve, pardon me, and I wasn't sitting at the table with him, but I was listening in, and it was very entertaining.
See, unfortunately, I'm not a big New Year's fan unless I'm drinking. So it's kind of one of those weird things. I've never been a huge New Year's fan, and honestly, I don't like too many people. Like, not people themselves, just too many people in one area. And, I wanted to do something a little different. I've always had this very mellow, New Year's, not really doing much. I wanted something a little different. I got a little different. I think I got a little bit more than I was bargaining for. But I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to go for a little bit of a music break. We'll come back. We'll do a little bit more talk. I definitely think this is a really, really good conversation. Something we can touch on, not just this episode, but even more going forward. Because being a geek is really, truly who we are and what inspires us every day to do what we're doing. So, what we'll do is you can enjoy this music, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. This will be our second half of the show, which, normally is we go through a different segment, but I think we're kind of enjoying a little bit what we're doing.
I think, and I mean, a large part of this, again, is, for those people who are just tuning in, is FanQuest is coming up here in Winnipeg, and it'll be taking place, I believe, in the month of May.
May 27th and May 28th.
Thank you. And so, in part of the reason...
And Lazy Nerd can smack me if I got that date wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And part of it is, it's kind of help, us geeks kind of to find ourselves again. It's, in a lot of ways, it feels like, I know I've mentioned this in the past, where it kind of, almost, some of us have become a little disenfranchised. And, so FanQuest is kind of seeking out to kind of to relight that flame that many of us geeks seem to have been losing.
Yeah,
and so, on the first part of the show, we were kind of, talking about how we first kind of got into this. And again, if you guys want to go off, and we're having a current conversation.
Within a conversation.
Within the conversation with our good friends Weem and Lazy Nerd, and my wife is even going off in messaging. So Angel, I hope our little boy is enjoying this show. He's probably laughing at how silly Daddy and Uncle Fizz sound on the air.
Yes,
I'm actually gonna get him to start calling you Uncle Fizz.
That is fine. I think this is the first convention where we really don't know a whole lot of what to expect or what's coming, but it excites me because you go into say C4 and you go HorrorCon and what used to be the Pop Culture Expo, and I think this year it's the Manitoba convention. You kind of get a feeling what it's going to be like. You know what you're walking into, so it gets a little repetitive and boring and and a little scary to be honest. But with this FanQuest, it's definitely promising a lot of different atmosphere, different attitude, which I think is exciting. And you and I are very, very, very glad to be involved. Somehow
we are going to be involved. We're not privy to go off and to really discuss a lot of this information right now. What we can tell you is that we are in the midst of trying to set up an interview with a member of FanQuest, and there's been some discussion back and forth.
Yeah.
Which the captain is kind of taking the lead on. Largely because I can't seem to get in on that conversation on my phone for some reason, and I just don't go on my computer unless I'm writing.
Yeah, and we will actually have our own table there, which to me is exciting. It's our first event that we are actually full-fledged, part of, and what better event than FanQuest?
Yeah, exactly.
An event for the fans.
And so I guess going kind of back to this, I mean, I'd be kind of curious to see. Again, guys, if you can follow us on Facebook. Check us out. You can search for us as Captain Fizz and the Masked Man. Of course, the page does say Captain Fizz and Masked Guy.
But the monkeys were drunk that day.
Let's blame the monkeys. I think the cat ate the monkeys.
Yeah, the cat ate the monkeys.
But so I'm kind of curious, and how you guys kind of what are some of the things that go off and kind of have got you out there interested into Facebook into geekdom. You guys can go off and comment on the status that has this on our Facebook that has the link to this podcast, and tell us what you think. Or I mean, in the case of my wife and Lazy Nerd and Weem, you can go off and you can share some of your stories, and we can share them on the line here tonight.
Yeah,
while your cat decides he's gonna go off and you'll lie next to your PlayStation 3.
Yes,
I feel scared for your PlayStation 3.
I'm definitely intrigued on what makes people nerds. Like, there's so many different types of nerds or geeks or whatever you want to call. It's fascinating, and wow, I'm kind of lost for words here.
You're tongue-tied.
Because, you look at it, there's so many different things. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan. a huge Star Wars fan. Every game I play, I pretty much call myself some form of Yoda. It's pretty much been my moniker for the last 8 or 9 years, give or take. With the exception of my PlayStation. I am actually Mr. Grunt, which is kind of a shot at Stormtroopers, because they are the grunt of the Empire.
They're completely. If you're talking like the Empire, they're just completely useless.
So it's kind of my little geekish shot at that. But you look at the video games and movies and all this stuff, and in fact, we pretty much get giddy with joy when certain movies come on. I've actually seen the new Star Wars movie twice now.
Oh, have you?
I cried legitimately the second time after Carrie Fisher passed away. Seeing R2-D2 in it and all that was definitely very emotional on so many levels for me. And you look at all the different movies. Like, you can be a geek of movies, and it doesn't even have to be sci-fi or comic book related. If you love movies, you're a movie geek, and that's what's awesome. There are no other words to describe this. Like, there are so many different scenarios that people can be what they enjoy being.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different types of us out there. I mean, in the fact that I've kind of, I've talked about the whole EFED, experience that I've went through for the last, I guess it's almost 2 years now. I'm actually shocked at how long I've kind of been a part of this experience through a number of different organizations, the 101 Colony, Pulomania, Lions Roads, Texas Championship Wrestling, I think was one, Mid-South, Midwest Wrestling Alliance, Guerreros de Lucha, and just a few others. And again, I mean that's another thing. I mean, going off it's kind of almost a version of online gaming out there, and that's kind of like an extension. I mean, people say, "Oh, I'm not a geek for going off and playing video games." Yeah, you kind of are.
Well, it's the same as Lazy Nerd here. His wife is a huge fan of Stephen King books, which I can definitely get behind. I absolutely love Stephen King. He was one of the first books I read when I actually started getting into reading, other than the Chronicles Shannara Chronicles, growing up. But yes, I
series I was really into.
I believe that even reading Stephen King, you can be considered as a geek, because you pretty much put yourself in that world. You delve yourself into this alternate world that you get lost. And there's no other words to describe it. I personally believe a fan of books, period, can be considered a geek.
Yeah, and I think part of the gig experience for a lot of this is there's a certain level of escapism, whether it's through cosplay or through watching movies or television or playing video games or on the online stuff that a lot of us do, whether it's through e-fedding or writing, or which are actually go hand in hand, or a lot of other things you go off and see. I mean, part of the reason it went up. It's a way for us to go off and express ourselves, and I think that's something that I think when we really get down to it, I mean, and I know we live in a world where there seems to be tons and tons and tons of conventions, but I don't know. I mean, and again, I've never attended any conventions outside of Manitoba, so I can't say this is the case for every convention out there. I mean, I'd love to go to San Diego's Comic-Con at some point, but I really do feel that it's starting to get a little stifled. I think is the word for me here, and I'm not sure, and that's why I'm kind of curious to see, if FanQuest can go off and
I think a lot of the ones that I found, and I've gone to different ones across the country, which has definitely been an eye-opener, is a lot of them have become cookie-cutter, conventions. It's the same old thing year in, year out. C4, yes, they change things every now and then, but every year they seem to have the same thing. It's honestly, to see the guests, it's an arm and a leg. To get in, it's so expensive now. There's just so much that, makes you not want to enjoy what you do. And I love conventions. It's a moment to get out there, to meet with people like yourself, to, idolize, these characters or actors who play these characters, as well as see some, cars and different things from the shows and, your comic books and that. But when did we lose what the whole meaning of it was? Like, it's become to the point where